Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Thank you for joining us. Today is March 1st, 2025, and we are live here at the Minnesota Real Estate Show every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. here at WCCO. Welcome your questions, comments, thoughts at any point. Again, 612-294-6949 is how you can join us. The show is hosted by Mike Overson, Luminate Home Loans, Scott Walmering, myself, Ryan O'Neill, with the Minnesota Real Estate Team, REMAX Advantage Plus. Appreciate you joining us. Whatever social media platform you're catching us on, we're here from 10 to 11. Steve Stalock is with us here today. A lot of good stuff to talk with Steve. Scott, good morning to you, bud.
Yeah, good to be here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We're going to go live here, like Ryan said, in just a minute here. 612-294-6949 is how you can join the show live if you want to go on air, or you can text us questions, or obviously if you're following us on any of the social media, just write them in and we'll handle them as they come.
Yeah, we do appreciate you joining us. And again, it's hard to believe it's March 1st. Going to be sharing in the first segment here updates with real estate, mortgage, where current interest rates are at, what we see with the market moving forward here. And again, any topics at all, 612-294-6949 is how you can join us. Scott, we've got no football on the weekends to watch. What have you been doing with yourself?
Oh my gosh, just in a deep depression. I go into depression for 4 months until football comes back, but golf is in full swing, and that is a good second for me. So yeah, I enjoy golf on the weekends.
Steve's working today. You're working. You got an inspection from a radio listener. Sounds like.
Yep. I'm keeping very busy, so I'm very grateful for that. And even though football season's over, we're in the middle of Minnesota high school hockey season, and it's crazy. I think the field for the boys tournament is finally set.
Yeah, I know I'm going to be extremely unpopular. I am just not a hockey guy.
You're not a
hockey? No, but all my friends growing up were all huge hockey guys. I just am not a hockey guy.
You need to get on the train. The state of Minnesota. Here we go. We're going live on WCCO. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Again, hope your weekend's starting off well. Good morning, and welcome to the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Appreciate you joining us, and hope your Saturday is starting off well. It is March the 1st, 2025, and this is the Minnesota Real Estate Show, hosted by Mike Overson of Luminate Home Loans, Scott Walmering, and myself, Ryan O'Neill, of the Minnesota Real Estate Team and REMAX Advantage Plus. This is a live real estate show. 612-294-6949 is how you can join us by phone or text. 612-294-6949 with any questions, comments, thoughts. In studio today, we've got Steve Stalock, Win Home Inspection, a longtime preferred partner with the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Scott, good morning to you, bud. Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to be here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Like Ryan said, this is the Minnesota Real Estate Show, and we are here every Saturday for your listening pleasure. Hopefully it's pleasurable. And we do talk everything real estate and mortgage related as it relates to the Twin Cities. We're going to get into our updates like we do in the first section every week. One question this week that I wanted to talk about is if you had foreknowledge of what the market was going to do. So, for example, back in 2006, if you knew that we were going to go from 18,000 homes to 35,000 homes in the first 3 months of 06, what would you do from a real estate perspective? And the reason I'm bringing this up, and don't get me wrong, I do not think this is going to happen, but it brought up a discussion thought in my mind. I saw some economists talking, and one of the economists had predicted, with everything that's going on with the new administration, and whether you believe it or not, it's not my point, that he believes that in about 18 months, interest rates are going to drop under 3%. I won't go into all the reasons he thought it was going to happen and whether it will even happen. But the question that we'll get into after the first break is, if you knew that was happening, you knew that was going to happen, in 18 months, rates are going to be at 3%, how would that affect what you do in real estate? What would you do in real estate? So everybody kind of think about that. We'll talk about it after the first break.
Yeah, again, 612-294-6949. First segment of the show, we always like to do a little update, real estate and mortgage update real estate wise, new listings in the Twin Cities down 7% year over year, 7% less new homes came onto the market. Pending sales down almost 10% year over year. There were 728 accepted purchase agreements. And then the overall inventory very similar to last year at this time, but just down slightly, down almost 0.5%, 6,934 homes for sale. Median sales price is still up year over year, 5%. It's up to $370,000. And again, our friends at Luminate Bank, Mike Overson, interest rate standpoint, the news this week is that interest rates are getting close to 4-month lows. They went on to say that after a week of consistent and meaningful improvement, mortgage rates finally showed us they were capable of moving in the other direction. Goes on to basically just talk about rates have been dropping. Mid to high sixes is where they're at right now. And Scott, we're starting to feel it on listings. I was just talking to Mike Garbart on our team. We've got a nice listing in Farmington, a $400,000 property. Just got an offer here this morning. You've got one, I know, a upper bracket property that has 15 showings. And did you say you already got an offer or not yet?
Yeah, we have one offer coming in. I believe we have two, and I think we're going to probably end up at three or four. And it was an interesting. It's still on the market, so I won't talk about what property it is. But it is an upper bracket property, which normally doesn't get that kind of pressure like you would in something under 500. But because there's so few homes out there, and anybody that maybe is in that $1 million to $2 million price range, you show your client one home every month or every 3 weeks. That comes on. So there's a lot of you out there. There's not just you with your agent, but there's a lot of other $1 million-ish people that are doing the same thing. Hey, a new one comes on, it fits my criteria, and they jump on it. Those are your buyers. I mean, those are the ones that have seen everything, in this price range from $1 million to $2 million. So they know when something comes on if it makes sense. And as weird as it is, these are going into multiple offers.
Yeah, and just in talking to a lot of the agents on the Minnesota real estate team, I talked to Joe Mack this week, Laura Antolik, Jennifer Tischlitter, Heidi Huseth. Very busy. They are busy. A lot is going on. Yeah. And so it's just funny when people ask, hey, how's the market? And when you respond, things are happening. I think a lot of times people think nothing's happening.
Or I've actually seen the opposite. They think the market is just incredible.
Oh, okay.
Because, my neighbor's house sold in one day. That house over there had 10 offers on it. So it feels like the real estate market is really, really moving. And it is. The problem is 2023 and 2024 were the worst 2 years in 40 years for units sold. So yeah, your neighbor's house sold, but you notice that there's not 8 on your street. There's just 1 on your street.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Everything moves quickly. There's just not the volume, because there's just not that many homes in the market.
Yeah, again, one last item with that, again, pricing. Pricing is very important. We're seeing showings happen on listings, but overpriced homes and listings are sitting. Buyers, again, are with their agents. They're out seeing the market. They know what things should be selling for. So overpriced listings are selling.
Are sitting.
So just be sure to, in talking with your agent, to be sure to get that price dialed in. Very important. Hey, we're already at the first break here at the Minnesota Real Estate Show after the mortgage and real estate update. You're welcome to join us at any point. 612-294-6949 is how you can reach us by phone or text. We're live here at WCCO in Minneapolis Saturday mornings. Hope your weekend's starting off well. This is the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Thanks for joining us on social media, everybody. Steve, good to see you, buddy.
It is good to be here. Like you said before, it's March.
It is March.
Coming in like a lamb.
What is the normal temperature? Is this way low normally?
25.
It seems warmer than normal.
Yeah, 25 is not. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it feels good to me as long as it's not negative anything.
Well, where was it last week or the week before? It was
so cool.
The high for the day was 2 below. Okay. And now we're into weather where I'm not needing to wear a coat outside. It's strange.
It was interesting talking to Steve about sellers who are, or I'm sorry, you were doing pre-inspections with buyers on offers?
It's now, I'm getting more requests for that. Haven't seen it since, well, a couple of years ago, but to, the tag along during a showing.
Okay,
Tell me as much as you possibly can. We're gonna make a non-contingent offer, but I need to be informed about this house. I go in, I'll take whatever time, half hour, 45 minutes, whatever they can get for a showing. And I inspect the heck out of and tell them as much as I can.
yeah.
How old is the furnace? That kind of stuff.
I had a question here, Steve. How big of a deal is a problematic deck? Love everything else about the home, but the deck we're a little unsure with. Any thoughts about your inspections on decks?
Yeah, decks are, they're exposed to the exterior if they're not properly built or maintained.
Yeah.
If they're high off the ground, yeah, that's kind of a big deal. In general, I don't see too many decks that I would term dangerous, but I do see several that, the railings are pretty sketchy. It's like, would I let my grandkids run around on that deck? And there's a lot of times where I'd say no.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got it. All homeowners take care of it. Maintain it, refinish it, replace damaged boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever I hear a question like that, though, maybe it's just the old realtor that I am, but it's everything is just money. So,
Yeah.
so
Time and money.
that's immediately what I think.
We're going back live on air. Welcome back to the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Hope your weekend's going well. Every Saturday we're here. Talking to a friend this past week. He said, "Do you do that real estate show every Saturday?" And I said, "Every Saturday." He said, "Do you actually go in there to WCCO?" We actually go in. I feel like I know downtown Minneapolis, like the streets and stuff. I drove in a new direction today, just like, I don't know, just from being down here, you just kind of get to know things.
Not me. I know the place I take a left on and the place I park on. That's about as deep as I get into downtown Minneapolis. But yeah, I'm asked the same thing. 20 years every Saturday, and for a while we did them on Thursday evenings. Remember that for
Thursday? We had Thursday evenings. We had Sunday morning.
Sunday morning. Yeah, we've done it all.
We've done about every time Saturday afternoon, late Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, that was a dog.
It was a 2-hour show.
Yeah, that was.
People were like, "Too much."
Well,
We've heard enough of you guys.
Well, we did a 2-hour show for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And we had a revolt. They're like, "Look, guys, I don't mind listening to Scott for an hour and 45 minutes, but 20 minutes of airtime with Ryan, I just can't handle."
Hey, we do have a listing. We got a feature. Miss Laura Antolak, who I just mentioned, has a nice one in Shakopee, 926 Carriage Circle. It's listed for $629,900. It is a custom built 4-bed, 3-bath home. It's got a walkout basement. It is a rare over 1 acre lot on a cul-de-sac. It's got privacy in the back, lots of space, new roof, gutters, furnace, AC, LVP flooring, stainless steel appliances. It's got a maintenance-free deck and a huge aggregate patio with an oversized 3-car garage. This is offered for sale for the first time, Laura said, 926 Carriage Circle in Shakopee, $629,900. Scott, that's what's interesting is that these, a lot of these properties, like you said, there's so few of them out there. When it's priced right, in good condition, a lot of activity.
Yep, there is, and you can tell. So, for example, on this one listing we're referring to, that's an upper bracket listing, I knew and called some of the agents that had multiple offers on their homes, within 5 miles in the same price range, and so I kind of knew that there was about 10 to 12 buyers that had lost out that were going to roll over to this one, and then that's what ends up happening when they go into multiples. But that's what that people need to understand. You'll hear at cocktail parties a lot. "Oh my gosh, Scott, my neighbor's house, he had to sell it. He sold it in 2 days. He just had to give it away." And it's the complete opposite. If they sold it in 2 days or 3 days, they got the absolute maximum that they could possibly get on that house. Now, if the home sold 3 weeks later, they did not. And I call it when the market filters. And put yourself in that situation. You go in the first 2 days, there's 20 showings on it. There's people in the house. You got to wait in the driveway to get into your showing. You like it, you're excited, you're going to lose out because all these people are going to want to buy it. That's the mentality of a new listing when it goes on. Versus 3 weeks later, think about how long that is. 3 weeks later, the house isn't sold. They're not going to get that number. It is filtered. People get it. But in that first 2, 3, 4, 5 days, nobody really knows. Everybody's excited. Are they going to get it? Not going to get it? I want it. Do I pay this? And that's what you want to put when you when you represent a seller. You want to create that frenzy on the buying side.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Do I have to pay a commission now in this new environment? You don't. You actually don't.
Never did. Never
yeah.
did.
That's true. Good
Never
point. Yeah, you never did. A lot of different ways a person could sell their home. They could sell it by owner.
Yep.
You could just put up a sign yourself. You could sell it that way, not offer a commission. There's some brokers in the Twin Cities that are kind of like a flat fee service
Yep.
that you could do with that. Yeah, you've never had to pay a commission.
I will tell you this.
Yeah.
I will tell you this though. For most real estate agents, when they list their home, not only do they pay a commission, they normally pay an elevated buy-side commission. I can name multiple agents that do it at 3% or 3.5% payout because they understand the volume that you get in this kind of a market with only 6,800 homes on the market. The volume of offers you get will far surpass any commission that you would need to be in there. So when you think about, do I have to pay a commission? What you're saying is, because I want to save money. And I'm telling you, you do not. You end up paying more.
Yeah, but you're a realtor.
Well, I'm just saying, my houses have never, the personal homes I've sold have never sold in more than 5 days because I know that's the thing. So if I was a real estate agent that had the mindset, oh, I'm going to price it here because everybody can write an offer and, blah, blah, blah. That is not how you get the most money.
Yeah, if you are currently living or owning a condo or a townhome and you are in an association, the last few months, we've talked a lot about the insurance issues that are coming up. Be sure to just be in touch with your association, with your board. Find out if there are any updates from an insurance standpoint with all the losses across the country that are happening. We're seeing a lot of different things happen with insurance and with your association. And so just be sure you're kind of keeping tune with that as owners of properties, because that will affect you when you sell. So when you sell, again, that's a piece of the puzzle for buyers, understanding the association fee, the documents, getting 10 days to review those. It's just important to know that, Scott. And I find a lot of owners sometimes when they're selling their condo or townhome, they don't really know, and then they find stuff out when they sell it.
That's right. So we kind of put a question out there before the show. If
that was a good one. You're like, hey, thanks, good point.
Yeah, that was a good point.
Let's move on. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, appreciate it, Ryan. But anyways, the question before the show was, if you had a crystal ball and you knew, for example, I was listening to these economists and one of them had predicted he believes rates are going to be below 3% within 18 months. So let's not argue whether that's going to happen. Let's just say we know that's going to happen. So by, let's say, July of next year, we know that rates are going to be at 2%. If you had that knowledge, like if we could go back to 2006 and knew that, that the market was going to double in inventory, what decisions would you make? What decisions would you make right now? So next July.
What made you think of this one?
Well, because I watched the guy and he's like, here's the rates. Rates are going to be at 2%.
Which I don't think is going to happen.
I don't either, but that's not the point. If you knew it was going to happen, if you knew it was going to happen on that date, what would you do? So for example,
what would you do?
Well, I'll tell you what I would do, but the mindset I think for most people is, well, I'd wait for rates to drop to 3%, buy a house.
Yeah, that would be logical. Well, let's wait.
Yes, because now the rates are at 3%.
Which is what a lot of people are thinking.
And a lot of people will do. If that was going to happen, they're going to, as soon as rates get into the twos, they're going to go crazy. What you would do is you would purchase as much as you possibly could 60 days outside of that drop. So if you're an investor, you would buy investment property at 7% because you're paying what the investment property is worth. And then all of a sudden, 2 months later, it drops to 2%. You refinance all your properties. Now your monthly just went crazy. Your monthly net went crazy.
Went down.
I'm sorry, yeah, went down. So your payments went down. What you're walking away with monthly goes up. Same way with if you're buying your own personal property, you would buy the most expensive home that you could possibly buy, a month or 60 days out of it closing, because you're going to buy a house for $1 million that's at 7%. Now rates are at 2.5%. Well, you just bought a house for $400,000 for $1 million. So those are the kind of things that went through my mind. How would you position yourself? We've talked a lot about, God, if I could go back to 2006,
sure,
the major wealth swing that occurred from 2006 to 2010. So if you had that crystal ball, what would you do? What would you say?
It's a really good point.
We'll move on. We'll move on. So what would you do?
No, I think what's interesting to Scott's point about that, I think what happened during COVID when interest rates were so low, Steve, obviously a lot of people came out of the woodwork and there were multiple offers and people bought a lot of real estate and oftentimes paid high numbers for properties. And so I think what Scott's point is, it's important when you buy real estate, it's important what number you buy it at. And in other words, do you buy the $300,000 house and it's worth 300 and you paid 300, or were you in an environment you paid 375 for it? You got a low interest rate, but now you paid.
The house is only worth 300.
Yeah, and that's hard. And I think that's hard for people. So I think to Scott's point, when it comes to equity and buying, that's an important thing to remember. I don't know, Steve, you got any thoughts here as we're rambling on?
Well, basically, the law of supply and demand never fails.
Yeah, good
So
point.
with the low rates, the demand hypes up, and then the lack of inventory is going to raise the price of everything. So it works every time.
Yeah, it would be an interesting environment. And I think prediction wise, Scott, I know Mike, has Mike really given a snapshot what he thinks with interest rates?
He thinks that kind of what I think, that rates are going to be between kind of that 6 to high 6s, pretty consistent for the next year-ish. So nobody really out there believes that there's going to be a major mortgage interest rate drop. Everybody thinks it's going to kind of stay that. But it was an interesting panel.
Yeah.
Because this guy's, I won't say who it was, but he's no joke. And so he was going through all the economic factors that could occur if this worked, and if this worked, and if this worked, and if this worked, and then rates would be down. So it just made me think, if you had that knowledge,
Sure,
that pre-knowledge, what would you have done? So for example, I think back to 2006, if I had 20 investment properties, I would have sold them in 2005
sure.
and got cash heavy. And then when stuff that was 300 grand is now 90 grand, I would buy a ton of those.
Sure.
Again, if you had that foreknowledge, which
Right.
of course we do not.
Yeah. Hey, downtown Minneapolis here, there is a big firefighter event going on. Ryan Perpich was just telling us about this. Steve, made me think of smoke alarms. Thoughts on that?
Well, every year we're about to go on to the daylight savings, and there's always the big promotion about changing your batteries and smoke alarms. And what I often see is I'll go inspect any house and the smoke alarms are 15, 20 years old. You just cannot rely on old detectors. So everybody out there, even homeowners, check your alarms. There will be a date code on it when you take that down. If you don't see a date code on a smoke alarm, it's old, get rid of it.
Yeah.
But they are not reliable, especially the older type, ionizing type alarms. They have a little radioactive element that isn't reliable as it should be. So 10 years, get rid of them. And also carbon monoxide alarms. Get several through your house near your bedrooms.
So Ryan, so you see 15 firemen going up a ladder and going into a building, and you think fire alarms? That's what pops in your brain.
Smoke alarms.
Smoke alarms. Oh, I just saw those guys going up that building. It made me think of smoke alarms.
Well,
it's more interesting than talking about HOAs.
yeah. So
Correct.
here's the interesting thing, though, about that is that a couple thoughts when you mentioned. Did you hear about Gene Hackman passing away?
Yes.
So really, kind of a sad deal with him, his wife, and
His
their
dog.
their dog.
Yeah.
And so I guess I haven't looked into.
It
was not carbon
It was
monoxide.
not carbon monoxide. They were actually dead almost 14 days before they found him. They were kind of mummified. So they don't know exactly what happened, but they don't believe it's carbon.
But that was a normal thing to think about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Possible carbon monoxide. That does happen. It's in the
Scary.
news.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So actually, for Christmas, one of the gifts that I give my kids who are adults living in their own homes, I give them 1 year carbon monoxide alarm, 1 year smoke alarm, and say, throw away the oldest one.
So is there this business out there? If not, I mean, a company that goes out and you think about it, especially for older people getting up on ladders or trying to, I think that's probably a big reason a lot of people don't change stuff. As you think
Yeah,
about
that's
homes,
true.
if they're in a 2-story, whatever, are there services out there that go in and say, look, for $100 or whatever it is, I'm going to go get you dialed in? I mean, think of how great of a service that would
Well,
be.
certainly electricians often will replace smoke alarms because oftentimes there's a rewiring required, handyman services, those kind of things. I don't know of anyone who's built a business just called Smoke Alarms or Us,
Yeah.
but certainly you can find a maintenance crew to do that. And it is a very simple thing for any do-it-yourself homeowner. And I understand elderly, my mom is not going to get up on a ladder and change smoke alarms.
Yeah. I mean, Scott's, I'm worried about you getting up there.
My smoke alarm is beeped every 5 hours for like the last 6 months.
You need to
I
get that done.
I cannot figure out. I put new batteries in it, so I have to go over with a broom every 6 hours when it starts beeping and hit it.
Well,
to
that's
brand.
not good.
For like 6 months. My
That might
kids
be
are
a
the
clue.
kids are like, you are.
Time for
Hey.
a new alarm.
We're up against a halfway break. Before we break, Mr. Joe Mack has got an open house he's doing on this property. It's up in Blaine, 858 111th Lane, Northeast in Blaine, from 11 to 1. Right after the show here, Joe is going to be there. It is a 4-bed, 4-bath home. It's got a walkout lower level, great views backing up to a very nice wetland, Joe says. Open concept, brand new maintenance-free deck, stamped concrete patio, and it was built in 2022. Check out those photos online, 858 111th Lane Northeast in Blaine. Stop out, meet Mr. Joe Mack at the open house from 11 to 1 today. This is the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Yeah, it's a good, Steve, I'm glad you brought that up. I just think, I don't know, you think about what homeowners really switch their smoke alarms.
Well,
Yeah.
we have talked over the years that homeowners are the last to know what's going on in their own houses.
Hmm.
And that fits that category perfectly. People just ignore them because you know what, for the most part, something like an alarm is very reliable.
Yeah.
Except for when it isn't. And
Right.
you can't have an alarm just not work.
So new construction, what do new construction homes do with smoke alarms and carbon monoxide homes? For carbon monoxide detectors?
You will have hardwired alarms in hallways, all bedrooms, at least one in each living level, and a carbon monoxide alarm within 10 feet of any bedroom.
And do you have to, with a new home, do you have to then change out still?
A lot of alarms now come with a backup battery that's a guarantee, they warranty it as a 10-year battery. So many of them don't require replacing that battery,
Yeah.
but some do. And I use daylight savings as a reminder all the time
Yeah.
to have this conversation and make people aware.
When is daylight savings?
Next weekend,
Next weekend.
we lose the hour, we spring forward.
Spring
that's
forward.
nice. So it doesn't get it dark so early.
Stays a little lighter later. That helps the market too.
Does.
For showings, evening showings. People don't want to be showing homes during the dark, so that helps. Those little things help the spring market.
Yeah, gets people out, and yeah, when it gets dark at 4:30, it's like, ugh,
Yeah.
it's depressing.
It is. Yeah, it is an interesting point. Steve, other things you're finding with your home inspections, other things, I know we've talked a lot about sump pumps over the years in the
Yeah.
spring here with the thaw.
A lot of things that are not really always obvious and visible. One thing I often see, I get up into an attic and there have been, you've had wiring and cable TV and speaker wires and all your insulation, instead of having, 12 to 16 inches deep, it's been trampled down to 1 inch.
Oh, wow.
I see that all the time, right down the middle, there's no insulation in the attic. So, and who goes up in their attic? Nobody. And that's kind of a heads up to homeowners. Do you know what's really going on in your own home? Think about getting it inspected and learn.
Yeah. Here we go. We're going live back on air. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Welcome back to the Minnesota Real Estate Show. We've got Mr. Steve Stalock with us today. Win Home Inspection. Wonderful guy. Very kind-hearted, knowledgeable, hardworking. After the show today, he is helping a radio listener with a home inspection. So thank you to that radio listener for reaching out to Steve. Steve, before we dive in with you, one other listing I wanted to hit on. This one is new as well. Ryan Beardsley, a great agent on the Minnesota real estate team and Remax Advantage Plus. Scott, this one's in Shakopee, 4032 Blakewood Drive in Shakopee for $275,000. It is 3 beds, 2 baths, a 2-car garage. It's got a little over 1,200 finished square feet. It is a townhome. It went active on the 27th, so yesterday, and there's an open house on March 2nd from 10 to 12. And it's updated, fresh, clean, modern touches, a great location. Scott, the upgrades include fresh paint, flooring, tiled bathrooms, sleek kitchen backsplash. It's 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhome. It's near 169 Mystic Lake, Canterbury Valley Fair. Check that out, 4032 Blakewood Drive in Shakopee, guys. $275,000. Scott, we don't see a lot with 2s in front of it.
Not anymore, especially single family. Not a lot out there with 2s in front of it. Yeah, that's a great area, nice house, great agent. Ryan's a super agent, so they're in good hands. 612-294-6949 is how you can join the discussion. If you have any questions that you want us to cover on air, or you can text us any questions to that number, and we will make sure we handle it. Talking with Steve Stalock, everything inspection related. You were talking about daylight savings times and what kind of comes along with that from an inspection standpoint and a real estate standpoint. So what's the scoop?
Well, I like going on to daylight savings. You had mentioned earlier about it's good for real estate because you're not having to go out and look at houses in the dark. And a big thing for me is, I'll schedule an afternoon inspection. And a lot of times, I'm locking up the house. At the end of the day, it's dark. I want to have as much daylight as possible when I'm inspecting a house for all the exterior things. So I'm welcoming the springtime. Big time.
Yeah, and again, Steve talking about just more activity with going with buyers before making an offer on a home. Kind of the walk and talk inspections, those are back as well, Steve?
It's coming. I'm getting more requests for that. I wouldn't say I'm overwhelmed with it like we were, a couple years back.
Yeah.
But it's an indication that buyers are facing more multiples. So, hey, they have to make a non-contingent offer, but they still want to have as much knowledge as possible on the home. And that's where that type of tag-along inspection, I call them verbal consultations. Just tag along during a showing and learn as much as possible to inform that buyer as to what they're about to get into.
Yeah, I had a question come in. I just said that we are seniors and we are looking at selling our property and transitioning. What time do you guys recommend from a market timing when to sell the property? Thoughts on this to share? Obviously, we work with a lot of seniors, Scott, and I think our approach, maybe before you comment, is a very low pressure sort of informational approach, helping people. It's a process, Scott, and just getting that information with the different types of senior housing that a person could move into after they sell as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, we always suggest that you graduate college first before you work with us.
What was that?
So we do work with seniors, but we always do promote finish school, and then we'll work with you. I'm sorry. I just did want to use. I thought one of your things. I thought of something funny and did not listen to anything you said. So what was the question?
Yeah, no, it is. We do work with a lot of folks who are selling their longtime home. Yeah. And then there's different ways to do it. I know, Steve, you talk about, you recently went through this.
Our family did too. And I would say one of the biggest, and timing wise, the timing is whatever works best for you. I don't know, you guys could talk about timing the market, but the biggest challenge our family went through was possessions. Sure. So there is so much that we had, and how do we get rid of it? You can't do anything with it. Nobody wants it. Those were
nobody
really
wants it.
There was furniture that was beautiful and wonderful in 1990.
Ryan, what do you think? Ryan, you're listening. Would you want some things, Ryan?
I got enough stuff. No stuff, please.
Ryan, when I kick the can, I'll leave some stuff for you. Okay, just
just leave me the money that you would get for the stuff. You know, whatever the stuff's worth, I'll take the cash.
That's
Good
right.
point.
Yeah,
People-
the adjusted amount. That's what I'll take. But it is true, and it is very, very hard for those of us that I do quite a bit of work with people that are downsizing, that are seniors, and it is a hard conversation to have. Nobody wants any.
There's so much sentimental value.
You've kept it for 70 years.
Yeah.
Nobody wants it.
How about kids though?
Well, they want the kids, but
No, I mean the kids,
Well,
because
that's-
there's a lot of heirlooms. I'm sure you had
That's
nice
what
heirlooms.
happened, and now one of my bedrooms in my home is filled with stuff
With heirlooms.
that came out of my parents' house.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what do I do with this? And I'm trying to organize and figure it out.
yeah,
It's a tough situation.
it is, and it's very tough when you have somebody that, for example, and I've had quite a few of these last 2 years, that the right move is for them to go to assisted living. You know, that's by far that's where they should be going, but they don't want to. They still want to live there. So not only do you have the real estate aspect of it, of how quickly it's going to sell and make it painful and make sure they get the most amount of money, but you also are dealing in a situation of a family dynamic that the older senior doesn't want to go.
Yeah.
Or they know they have to go, but so it's emotional. So you need somebody that has a little bit of kid gloves in that situation. You don't want somebody coming in that's chasing a sale. It needs to be a little bit more tender.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was this past week was the annual Remax convention out in Las Vegas, and there was a little discussion going on just about agents. And one of the questions was, "What do you look for, Ryan, in an agent when you're meeting someone?" And my honest response is, I said, I imagine my mom will be 89. If mom was sitting here at the table with me, what would my mom
Yes.
think? And what I meant by that is, are they pleasant? Are they interested in other people?
That's right.
Are they friendly? Can they chit chat a little bit? Can they keep it off real estate and not just hammer down? Scott, when you talk about kid gloves, this business, part of that business is that.
Yeah.
And that's hard to teach.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. It's an interesting business. You have so many emotions that are involved in it, so many different personalities, so many different stages of their life. Are they a first-time home buyer where the home they're buying is an equity builder. You want to make sure they're getting in the right property so that when they sell in 3 years, it's an equity builder.
Yeah.
Versus somebody that is in their late 70s that is completely changing gears, going a different direction. So yeah, you want somebody, but you're exactly right. I tell this to all my sellers when I compete. So if I'm competing against 4 other agents and the sellers are struggling with who they're going to pick, I always say, think about this. If you were dealing with that agent, do you like them? I mean, do you like them or do you not like them? Because that agent, for the most part, is going to be representing you, and they're going to be talking to all these other people. So if you don't like them, I can tell you other agents don't either.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a very good advice of what would your mom think? Because it's kind of that same mentality.
Steve, any thoughts on that? Or in general?
Well, in general, kind of building off what Scott said, I know a ton of real estate agents, and oftentimes friends or family will ask me, "Hey, do you know a good agent?" And rather than saying, "Oh, here's someone who clearly is a good agent," I think personality, and I try to match who's asking me with what realtor I know, where their personalities. That is above all.
That's right.
How well will they mesh?
Well, and we do trainings on this all the time. Switching gears from a real estate agent perspective. Being slow in your process, learning who you're dealing with, what's important to the person that you're going to be selling their house on. Are they somebody that when you walk in, they just want numbers and get to the point? Or are they somebody that has lived there and, they planted their gardens and they put that tree in?
You got to read the room.
Yeah, you got to read the room. Know who you're talking about, so you don't sit there with a attorney on a 3-hour presentation about all the love in the neighborhood. They don't care. Versus
Or an engineer.
Yeah, or an engineer. Versus when you go into a family that's been there for 40 years and raised their kids, etc.
Hey, we're up against the final break at the Minnesota Real Estate Show. 612-294-6949. We're here every Saturday Our team, the Minnesota Real Estate Team, we help people buy homes, sell homes, and invest in real estate all over the state of Minnesota and western Wisconsin. Wherever you are hearing this, we would love to work with you and your families. This is the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Good point. Good discussion. Thanks, everybody, for joining us throughout the show. It's not 2 hours.
Not today. No.
I remember those 2-hour shows.
You do. You've been with us a long time, bud.
Entire guest, the entire 2
Yes,
hours.
you were.
Be interesting for 2 hours.
Yeah,
That's a challenge.
that was too much.
You were with us. You've been with us since
From
the
the
beginning of the
day
show.
one.
Yeah.
Steve, what a good man.
I don't think I did the first show.
You're pretty
Probably the
close.
second or third show ever. And
Well,
we all came ultra prepared, right? We had sheets and it's like, I gotta fill up 2 hours. So we had everything laid out and then we didn't follow any
No,
script.
no.
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
minutes in, we're off in some direction.
Yeah, Steve, I met Steve through you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you were inspecting when Scott was starting in the business and Eddie Danner Realty. And I don't know how you guys originally connected.
Well, I used to actually, I don't even know if Ken Goey, who is a very good inspector, I'm assuming he's probably retired.
That's wonderful.
I think he passed.
Oh, he did pass.
That's
I
Yeah.
think so.
So Ken Goey was
Good guy.
my inspector at that time, and
Oh.
Steve actually, I think, came
That's
to an open
excellent.
house.
They should use-
That's how I built the business.
Yeah,
You did?
yeah, for them.
It's a great marketing thing for a realtor or for a home inspector. You guys are trapped in a house for 2 hours. I show up, business card, I'm a good guy, here's some chocolates,
Love it,
call me.
love it. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll pass that along
And,
to them.
you know,
That's a
I
great tip.
try
Thanks so
to reach every weekend,
much. Have a wonderful day.
20 to 25, realtors.
Yeah.
And I hope one of them calls.
Well, and that's what happened with, so again, Ken was and you know me, I'm loyal to my inspector, and he was a very good inspector. But when I used Steve for the first time, his bedside manner, his reporting, it was just, again, different than Ken and more along the lines of how I like things.
More kid gloves.
Even more kick gloves. And so Steve and I started working together, and it's been that way ever since.
I think I understood from the beginning, kind of like what you were talking about with realtors. I understand that this process that people are going through is emotional, biggest purchase they're ever going to make. And, you just have to, I take the dragnet Joe Friday kind of approach, just the facts,
Yeah.
don't embellish. Crazy things speak for themselves. You don't need to point it out.
Yeah.
Just keep moving on and explain why it's important.
Do you think we could help Scott kind of be more with kid gloves? What do you think?
At this point,
What do you think? Could we do it?
We could
I
try.
mean, what if Scott showed up next week on the show and you're watching and it's just like a whole new Scott? Just super sensitive. And
That could be a Walmering minute.
Go over the rolling rule. Yeah.
We're like, what's happened to this guy?
Super-
He's a new man.
First of all, I'm extremely sensitive. I cry at Charmin commercials.
Speaking of commercials, have you noticed there's like 8 or 6 commercials that run the same? Our little dog Minnie goes crazy for this one that's like the Charmin one
Yeah.
with the purple bear.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's the final segment of the Minnesota Real Estate Show. We've got Steve Stalock with us here today, Win Home Inspection. And our last listing to hit is Mr. Justin Voss has a great one in South Haven for $175,000, Scott. It's 4762 Bridgewater in South Haven. And he said this is a handyman special. It is 4 beds, 3 baths, split level. Both floors are handicap accessible. It's got new LVT flooring, hickory kitchen cabinets. The septic system is new in 2022. And there's many lakes close by, he said, for water sports, fishing and fun. 4 beds, 3 baths. Again, it's 4762 Bridgewater Road in Fairhaven for $175,000, a handyman special. Justin has that listed, Scott. Good one. Steve, what do you think? Handyman special.
I would go take a look. They're great opportunities.
We were just asking how you and Mr. Scott met. And back in the day, as an inspector, you're going into open houses and
Shaking
talking to
hands, handing out business cards, old school. That's me.
Yeah, he did. Came into an open house. We met and ended up having a break with the guy that I normally use, and Steve stepped in, and I never looked back. He's been there ever since. Julie Harrison, hey, great show, guys, as always. Thank you, Scott, for carrying the show. No, that's not. Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Julie, for listening.
Julie, thank you, friend. Appreciate you listening. Steve, any other thoughts for folks, current homeowners, people living in their house, people looking to buy a house?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, homeowners, if you've been there 5, 10, 15 years and you want to learn about your own house, I often find that people really don't know what's going on. Think about having it inspected. And then for home buyers, if you are in a situation when you're in multiples and you have to waive the inspection, one thing to consider is if your offer does get accepted and right as you close, like the day after before you move your furniture in, think about getting it inspected so at least you can learn what you got yourself into.
Good point, Scott.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit. I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but we are going to be back in multiple offers situations. We already are, and we haven't even really hit the full spring market right now. And I use a what's called a scorecard for my buyers, which each buyer then when they write an offer, they get a score on how the potential of their offer being accepted. It could be 100%, 90%, 70%, 60%. And if anybody out there's any agents are listening, they want that, shoot me a instant message. I can send it over to you. But it is a nice tool.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times buyers don't really understand why they're not getting the home.
Yeah.
They
may blame their agent.
Yeah, they may blame their agent. You advise them on what to do. But again, we do this every day. So when we throw things out, we're used to hearing it. They are not really tracking it. Where with the scorecard, they can say, okay, perfect score is 35 points, and I'm only at 26. Okay, I'm probably not going to get this house, right? No, you're not.
Hey,
go ahead.
Ryan, do you think Scott, do you think about Scott, meeting Scott, does he have kind of really soft kid gloves? I mean, when you're meeting with him?
How soft are a bear's paws? I've never touched a bear paw before, but
I love Ryan. That is funny. Hey, before the end of the show, I did want to mention, because my dear mother does listen to the show. And this week, we're really excited with our foundation, the O'Neill Foundation of Hope. We've got a house. It's actually named after my dear late father, Bob, and mom. It's called the Bob and Kathy O'Neill House of Hope. It is an up and down duplex in Bloomington, and it's transitional housing for anybody that is any families, people going through a really difficult time, perhaps car accidents, medical diagnoses, evictions, something terrible has happened. You need some interim housing for 3-4 months. It is zero cost. So it's zero cost. It's a way to get back on your feet again. We had to name it after mom and dad. I got a nice picture we sent out. We posted on social media too. So if you know of anybody, spread the word. Again, it's just a great thing to help some folks, Scott.
Yeah, I mean it's so cool. I mean your foundation itself is incredible, and then this house to be able to give honor to your mom and dad is super cool. In fact, I was just talking about this with my ex-wives, and they're like, "Why can't you be more like Ryan?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" Well, he's just sweet, and he's buying a house of hope for his parents. And I'm like, "Look, I'll buy a house of hope. Be a real small house of hope."
Hey, Dad would have got a kick out of the show over the years. Dad was an attorney in New Prague, and he did a lot of, as attorneys say, kind of pro bono work. You think of people that, in fact, just had two very nice older brothers in New Prague who reached out and said, "Hey, we worked with your dad in New Prague. He helped us on the estate and different things." And so everybody does your own part. Steve, you're the same type of guy. You're very generous towards our foundation. Thank you. You're the same type of guy.
Well, thanks. I hope I can actually live up to that.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. It's been a fun show. Last thoughts for people here today?
No, I threw that out earlier in the show about preparing yourself if you knew rates were coming. And again, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but pay attention over the next year, because there are some things that he had talked about which I think could happen. And if that happens, you want to get active in this real estate market and time yourself correctly.
Yeah, Steve Stalock. Again, if you go to mnrealestateshow.com, look for that handsome bald guy and reach out that way. Steve, last thoughts?
Good. Get out and enjoy this March weather, everybody.
Yeah, we appreciate Steve. He's been with us since day one of the Minnesota Real Estate Show. That's a long time. And next week, you got to tune in because Scott, he's really going to work on it this week. Those kid gloves. I mean, it's going to be a new Scott Wolmering.
Very soft. Very soft. Very sensitive.
Hey, we had some fun. Hope you enjoy the show. 612-294-6949. Thanks to Ryan Perpich for dealing with us every Saturday. We'll be back next weekend, everybody. Take care. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. It was fun. And it's only an hour, and Scott's throwing headphones. Hey, we're out for today. Have a good day, everybody. Get out and enjoy the sunshine. Great job. Reach out to Steve Stalock, Win Home Inspection. Does an awesome job. Appreciate you.